you could have the best DP in the world,
Yeah.
but if you've got shit styling,
Yeah.
it's going to look like crap. If the lighting's crap, it's going to look like crap. If the grip doesn't know what he's doing and the camera doesn't move the way it's supposed to move, it's going to look like crap.
Yeah.
So I think it is about the sum of all the parts coming together, and the choice of those people is crucial.
Hi guys, welcome to another episode of our podcast. So today we have a special guest. His name is Kim. Most of the producers that I've spoke to, about our today's guest, they were really excited that he's coming to the podcast, and they can't wait to hear from him, to hear what he's going to, to be sharing with everyone on this podcast. So his name is Kim. I'll let him introduce himself. His name is Kim Geldenhuys. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right.
Perfect. You got it.
Yeah, Geldenhuys. But I'm just going to let him, do a proper intro for himself. What's up, Kim?
Andile, nice to meet you.
Nice
Thanks
to meet you.
for the invitation. It's
Yes,
quite an
thank
honor
you.
to be here with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man, for accepting this invitation. It means a lot to us.
Thanks for
It
the
means a
invite.
lot to our community as well, podcast community, and our viewers and the listeners as well. It means a lot. Thank you so much, man. So, I'm just gonna give the floor to you. Just tell us about yourself. Who's Kim, and yeah.
Do I speak to you, to the cameras, or do I just, should we just
it's-
talk to
it's
each
a
other?
conversation between the two
Great.
of us.
So, as you know, my name's Kim Geldenhuys. I'm a director. I'm a owner of a company called 307 Films. I started in production 27, maybe even 30 years ago. I've been in the business a long time.
Yeah.
I started a company before 307, which is called Egg Films,
Egg Films,
way
yeah.
back in the day. And prior to that, I was a stills photographer in the fashion industry. So I know this little studio quite well, actually.
Yeah.
So I was in fashion. That's kind of what I did for about
Yes.
4 or 5 years. And then I got into, it was very evident for me that I wanted to kind of go beyond that, like 100th of a second or 1,000th of a second. I wanted to explore performances and people
Sure.
and human interaction. And that became very enticing and very inviting and very interesting for me. And that's
Yes.
why I got into film.
Yeah.
And I've sort of done commercials most of my career, and we're busy at the moment making a very big move towards long form. And all our efforts are being are very heavily focused towards getting a particular feature made that we've been
Sure.
working on for a couple of years.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So you're talking about Egg,
Yes.
So Egg was your first, baby,
Yes.
or was your first love in terms of films, when
Yeah.
it comes to film.
Yeah.
So I've been in the film now for almost 20 years. Obviously, I started as a PA myself. I've PA'd some of Egg commercials, stuff like that. So can you please just tell us about like the Egg journey? Because most of the people, they know Egg Films, and Egg Films is no longer in the picture now, right?
It's there. It's still operating. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Colin Hard's still there.
Okay.
He became my partner after a couple of years. So I started it with Neil Ace. We started
Neil as
Egg.
the first AD.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Yeah. We started Egg together, and we ran the company together for a couple of years.
Sure.
It was very successful right from the get go. It was great.
Yes.
We had a really super run, and then Neil went back to ADing. I ran the company on my own for a couple of months. Then Colin Howard came on board. He was producing for Keith Rose at the time at Velocity, and then he came on board and he became my partner. And we operated Egg for a couple of years together as a team. And then I went to LA. I moved to LA for about 2 years, and I came back. And then after returning from LA, I started at 307 on my own. I wanted to go back to like a small single director entity,
Sure.
just kind of where I'd come from, it was what I'd started. Egg was a single director entity when we started.
Yeah.
It grew, it became very successful. I kind of just wanted to go back to that sort of single source company,
Sure.
So that's why we started at 307. At 307's name, interestingly enough, is kind of like came from waking up at literally 03:07 in the morning. It was like my witching hour,
I was actually thinking about that this morning as I was preparing.
Yeah.
That I'm thinking that probably 03:07 is coming from waking up in the morning.
It is exactly that. Yeah. So I have this thing where I wake up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I can pass out like that.
Yeah.
Like 9:30, it'd take me a couple of seconds and I'm gone. But come 2, 3 in the morning, wake up, and that's when my brain really kicks in, you know.
Sure.
And I start to think about stuff, and so I make all my notes, and then I'll fall asleep again for like another hour or two just before I get up. But that is like my witching hour, you know,
Yes.
and that's where the name came from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Crazy. So, like, how was it for you, like, in terms of like leaving egg films, like it's quite a huge company and stuff like that.
It was hard because it was my family, you know. But I had a vision of something that I wanted to do and go back to and do again, you
Yes.
know. I was it was a very tough call to leave Egg. There were a lot of great people there, a lot of people that I loved dearly, and it really was my extended family, you know.
Sure.
So it was very, very hard to leave, but I had something that I wanted to do and achieve, and I wanted to be autonomous. I wanted my own space. I wanted to be on my own. I didn't want to be a part of something, you know,
I get you,
bigger.
yes.
And I just wanted to go back to, as I said, a single source entity, you know.
Yeah,
And that's what we
exactly.
did. But then 307 grew, you know, and we ended up with like 4 or 5 directors, and you know,
Yeah.
it became crazy big again. And I've now gone back to a single entity company, you know. So
Yes.
we sadly had to leave and lose everybody again because it became too busy. And what I felt and found was happening was that I wasn't able to focus on my long form career.
Yes.
So we really had to make a strong decision to kind of like, in order to find the time and not worry about anybody else or
Yeah.
their careers, and that I had to go back to that single source.
That makes sense.
Entity, you know?
That makes sense. So,
Which again was very sad. It was terrible.
Yeah,
I loved everybody. You know,
I
we were
can
like,
imagine.
they were like, it was a really cool crew. You know,
Yeah.
we had an amazing bunch of people working there. You know,
Sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, tell us, like, in your early stages, like, studying like 03, 07, okay, now, like, you've done with egg films, and then now, like, do you like take some time out of film for some time to think of what you're gonna do, or do you shoot straight into like opening Ochi, or did you have the idea of 037 while you were still at egg, or you left egg thinking of like, what am I gonna do now? You know, I have an idea. Let me just
Yeah.
take some time off. Or
No, I mean, I went to LA because I wanted to have a new experience and I wanted to work in the American market. So
Sure.
while I was still at Egg and still directing through Egg, I was in LA for 2 years.
okay.
And then when I came back, I just felt like I wanted to start something new again, you know.
Sure.
So it was only on my return that I suddenly realized that I wanted to start a new company. With the future goal of getting into long form.
Sure.
I did some amazing performance classes while I was in LA. I
Yes.
learned a lot about performance, acting, that sort of stuff. So
Sure.
I suddenly had tools that I'd never had before. So that was like a big thing for me, is to, you know, start a new company, be autonomous, be on my own, and there's something really exciting about like doing shit on your own, you know.
Yes, exactly.
And starting something new and new chapters, new books, you know. Like
Yes.
you don't read the same book over and over and
That's
over in your
true.
life, you
Yes.
know. It's really good to kind of get new experiences, and
Yeah.
that really is, for me, is a big thing, and that's why we want to get into film now.
long-
You know,
into,
it's
yeah.
like a new chapter. It's like I'm old, but
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just starting my career.
Sure.
Really,
That makes sense.
I'm not. I seriously feel like I'm just beginning. You know?
Yeah. I mean, you've done some cool stuff. Like, I've watched your commercials. Your commercials are amazing. You know, I was like Googling at some point, you know, #1 director in SA, you know, your name pop up. You know, real #1 directing commercials
Oh, really?
in SA. Yeah, your name pop up with some few other directors.
That's interesting.
Yeah, for sure, your name pop up. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but I was there on the initial stages of 0307.
Andile,
Andile.
help me, tell me, remind me.
I went to your house.
Come on.
I helped you with a job called with a Virgin and Active job.
No, come on. That was the very first job
That was a very best job.
with Cindy Rodkin.
Yes, I worked in your house in London. No.
No. I'm so sorry. I don't remember.
But,
No, that's
but I
amazing.
didn't finish the job with you guys.
Okay.
But those were just my early stages in the industry, because I was still in production.
Yeah.
I was a production coordinator. Those
Okay.
were still my early stages in the industry. But then I didn't finish the job with you guys because I think there was a producer that came in
Yeah, that was our very first job.
Yeah, that was the very first job. Yes.
And we shot it on Canon, little Canon
Yes.
digital.
In Music Bag, right?
Yeah.
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 We shot it with a friend of mine. What's his name again?
Paul Gilpin.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, 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 exactly.
Yeah.
I actually did some casting as well for that. Went to Music Bag doing some casting.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's so
that
cool.
was that was like long time ago.
I'm so sorry.
And I've grown up now, and now like most of the people don't even recognize me because I'm taller and I'm bigger. Because I
Yeah.
was skinny in the early days. I was very skinny. I didn't have the beard.
Okay.
So, but yeah, no, that's crazy, man. So, just a quick question that I mean, I always wanted to, to ask like a director like you. Have you ever had like a representative, like director's representative, like you would find that directors would have like their own representative, like a certain company, like Radical Cruise represents crew,
Yeah.
but they don't represent directors.
Yeah.
Represent like its general crew or set crew,
Yeah.
So have you ever had like a representative like that, like company that represents only directors?
Yeah. So I've always been my own representative in South Africa.
Sure.
But internationally, I'm represented by a number of different companies. So in Germany, we've got 4 or 5 people that represent us. The UK, Spain, Portugal, America, Australia, all over the world, we've got people that represent us. Yeah, and they only represent directors. So yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
Oh,
But
okay.
so internationally, yes.
Yeah.
When I started in South Africa, I was with Peter Gerd Productions.
P?
Peter Gerd Productions.
Okay.
And Janet Sender was my producer. And she actually pulled me out of stills. She actually pulled me out of the fashion industry and said, come, let's go make some movies together.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was a lot of fun. She was great. She's amazing.
Okay, cool. So basically, your career in South Africa has been represented by your company, which was Egg Film, and then now it's O3,
Yeah.
O307.
Yeah.
So you don't have someone from outside your company in South Africa representing you.
Not in South Africa.
Not in
no,
South Africa.
No. But
it's
overseas,
just-
yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So there are so many young and upcoming directors out there. You know what I mean? It's like they don't know how to get your first commercial. They don't know how to go about in terms of getting. It's easy to get a music video. It's easy to get this and that, but to get like your first, good commercial, like with a good branding, good agencies. Like how does it take for a director to get to the point where they get their first directing?
So that's a brilliant question.
Yeah.
Andile, my advice would be to develop a portfolio, for simplistic terms.
Sure.
To develop a little box of tricks,
Sure.
I don't think any production company will take you on and represent you without having something to show.
Yes.
No, they won't. Like you can come out of UCT, you can come out of any school. After, it doesn't really matter. But if you haven't got anything to show, to prove how good you are and what you can do, where your talent lies.
Sure.
And, like a lot of the times, it's a horrible thing to say, but like directors are kind of like almost seen as commodities. They're a cash cow. There's this thing in our business where production companies are looking to make money. That's why that's why they have production companies. They want to make money from them.
Yes.
They obviously also want to create and produce beautiful work.
Yeah.
So there is always the hunger, the search for the new up-and-coming kind of like star who's going to make that production company famous and make them a lot of money and get them into the limelight and give them, the presence that they need in the industry.
Yeah.
So as a new director, you need to produce 3, 4, 5 films that really show your ability.
So like.
And then pick your house very carefully.
Sure.
There are a handful of companies in this country in particular that do remarkable work.
Yeah.
To get into those companies is tough because the guys that are in those companies are of an exceptional level.
Yeah.
So you have to produce something remarkable, unique, different, or you have to be a phenomenal performance director, that can handle talent, handle actors, handle dialogue, handle performance, that is another thing. Or you've got to have a really remarkable eye.
Sure.
With those skill sets, then you can, it's like a calling card.
Yes.
That you can go to market and say, hey, Giant, hey, Romance,
Yes.
I'm looking for representation.
Yeah.
Darling, you can go and hit the companies, but you need something to
Yeah,
prove what you
yes,
do.
yes.
Does that answer your
Makes,
question, Andile?
makes so much sense. But
Yeah.
now,
And don't go too soon. Don't go too early.
yeah,
You know, make sure you got like brilliant shit, like staff pics on Vimeo, that sort of stuff. You know, they go a long way. You know,
yes,
and
yes.
if you could put like a little show reel together of 3 or 4 or 5 spots that kind of talk
Sure.
to your unique talent,
Yeah,
that'll help that production company hit the market and make money.
I hear you. So
That's what
just
you
to,
need.
just to cut you off just a little bit. So what kind of content do you need to? I mean, does it have to be specifically like something like commercials, or like it can be anything, but as long as like it's something looks creatively and looks nice. Or doesn't it have to be anything? Or
That's a brilliant question because
Yeah.
you can come at it from a performance perspective.
Yeah,
You could have 3 or 4 really amazing performance films. You could come at it from a visual perspective, and it could be like really cool street photography, and it could, you know, it could sort of talk to the zeitgeist of the era, you know,
Yeah.
and or it could be like sort of a beautiful collection of all of those things sewn
Sure.
into one, or it could be comedy. You know, you could have 5 spots that are really funny. They
Sure.
don't necessarily need to look good, or they
Yeah.
could all be conceptual films. You know, they could be like really, really smart ideas that show your intellect.
Yeah.
So you gotta kind of do what you do.
Yes, yes.
You know,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
got to do what you love doing, what you feel, and that's a key thing is to try and do what you love doing, what you're good at doing.
Sure.
You know,
I hear you.
don't do what you think people want you to do. Don't do what everybody else is doing. Don't do what everybody else is doing.
Sorry, I
You
love
know?
that because on our last episode I spoke about that. I said that the difference between us, between the old directors like you and the new directors, is that old directors like you, they create, and then us as new directors, we want to create from what you guys have created. So we're doing what you guys are doing. We want to do what you guys are doing. We don't do what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What we are best at. That's why, So I love what you just said right now.
And it's interesting because I know 1 or 2 young guys that are coming up now,
Yes.
and we've had the fortune of working with them,
Yeah.
and I can see they're doing what they want to do.
Yeah.
They're not doing, and it's fucking amazing.
Yeah.
The stuff is incredible. I mean, it's just a matter of time. These guys are going to go. You
Yeah.
know? And it's really cool to see the difference between somebody who does what they want to do and what
Yeah.
they're passionate about and what they
Sure.
really love.
Yes.
A good example of that is Emily Badenhorst, who's with Romance. She's always just done her own thing. And she started out with a couple of music videos and short films. But she's spoken to her love, her passion of the narrative and of performance and
Yes.
human interaction between people, and
Yes.
and that's her strength, and that's why she's doing so well.
So
And it's going to be really interesting to watch her career.
yeah,
You know?
yeah. No, we'll check it out. So just
I mean, she's just one of many
yes,
that's doing
yes,
that kind of thing.
yes, yes. What's her name again?
Emily Badenhorst.
Emily.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So just going back again to you, like how did you start? Was like directing something that you were a photographer. You said that you were a fashion photographer, right? You
Say
were
it again?
You were in fashion.
Yes.
You were a photographer.
Yeah.
So, but someone else, like a producer, dragged you into commercials.
Yeah,
Into commercials.
yeah, yeah.
So, like, starting up as a director, like, as a photographer, did you had in your mind? Did you had an idea that, okay, listen, this is what I want to do? Like, my long goal is to be a film director.
Yeah.
Is to do films, or
Yeah,
was
and
just to do.
I started out when I was young at high school.
Yeah.
I went to like a local government school, and I lived in a little flat in Rondebosch.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any money, so I started out as a usher at the Baxter Theatre.
Yes. Yes.
So while I was still in high school, standard 8, 9, I know you call them different names now, but that's what we called them in those days.
Yeah.
And matric, I worked as an usher in order to be able to buy a skateboard,
Oh.
And that's where I fell in love with performance. That's where I fell in love with cinema. And then I got involved in photography for a number of different reasons. And while I was in fashion, doing fashion,
Sorry for taking you back. Like, what were you doing in fashion, or like?
I was a photographer. I was
Oh,
a
just
still
photographer.
photographer. Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you-
So
did-
I was
did-
working for Elle and Marie Claire and all the fashion magazines,
Wow.
and doing a lot of portfolios and stuff like that. So we did a lot of editorial work. But it became very evident very quickly that I was super interested in the human interaction between
Yeah.
me and the character.
Yeah.
And that I wanted to go beyond just that split second. I wanted to go beyond like what came before, what
That's dope.
happens in the moment, what happens afterwards, and what are the feelings. And it's this thing that I'm very interested in is the domino effect of our behavior, on each other. Like I say something that affects you, and how do you react back? And so those sort of like human interactions and things really fascinate me and interest me, and that's the sort of narrative that I'm desperately keen to get involved with.
Sure.
Like human behavior,
Yes.
how we affect each other,
Yeah.
and so that became evident fairly quickly while I was a fashion photographer that I wanted to get. So I bought a Bolex. I got a Bolex. I actually got it for my birthday present. I didn't buy it. Somebody gave it to me as my birthday
Yeah.
present. And I shot like a little film for Converse, and I just stuck the logo on the end. And then I did one for
That's dope.
Perry Ellis, and I just did a little moment like with a model, and
Yes.
we shot it around Hot Bay and Llandudno in those rocks and stuff like that, and we stuck like a little logo on the end of it, and that started
That's dope.
a little showreel that we developed, and then Janet saw that and heard that I was like
That's-
messing around in film, and
that's
she said,
dope.
"Come, let's do it."
It's almost like you answered the question that I was about to ask. It's like
Okay.
you're reading my mind. I was about to ask that. Actually, what you just answered now, I was about to ask you that.
Okay.
So now we got the background of who's Kim and where you started and all of that. What you studied photographer and all of that. Janet came in and all of that. So now, now you're a director. Like, as the director, as a commercial director, like when you get the brief from an agency or client, whatever. Like what's your first thought? You say, okay, listen, we've got this job and here is the brief. Like what's your thought, like your thought process or process thought or whatever
Yeah.
you may call it, when you get the brief from a client for you to get that job.
So it's a great question. I mean, it's really about how to make it as good as possible. What can I bring to this to make it as good as possible? And rightly or wrongly so, we will change scripts. We do change scripts. We change endings. We change narratives. We change scenes. We change dialogue. We introduce dialogue if there's no dialogue. We think we need to. So we've lost a lot of work because we do that. We don't stick to the scripts a lot of the time. We
Yeah.
do whatever we can because at the end of the day, it's your name behind that work.
Yeah.
So you apply a mindset to make it as good and as strong and conceptually relevant, et cetera, as you possibly can.
Yeah.
So your primary objective is to make what you've been given as good as it can possibly be. And there's always this thing like, okay, well, what would so-and-so do with it? Or what would so-and-so do with it? There is that little thing in the back of your head,
Exactly. That's true.
And you know that all these great people out there are going to be looking at the work and they're going to be judging the work and they're going to be judging what you did with the work and how you produced the piece. So there's a strong drive, there's a strong impetus, and there's a strong trigger to really make it as smart and as clever and as beautiful and as edgy and as interesting and as like that's where the reward lies. So everybody says, "Oh, film's not about like awards," For
Yes.
instance, like everybody blows off. That's not exactly true, in my opinion.
That's true.
When you do win an award, it kind of just like gives you a little pat on the back and says, "Okay, well done. You
Exactly,
worked
yeah.
hard. It was worth it."
Exactly,
And there's a
exactly.
recognition amongst the industry that you've actually done something vaguely decent with the project. So awards do count, in my opinion. They do matter, actually. And that's why we have award shows and that's why we enter our work into awards.
Sure.
It is good to be elevated above the sea of work that's out there
Yeah.
and to stand out,
Yeah.
and to get a fucking little gold
Yeah.
chunk of metal in your hand.
Yes.
It helps. It really does help.
Yeah.
It means that you've kind of done something special.
Sure. Sure.
So for me, awards are quite a big thing, actually.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah.
So
But it's about doing the best you can do
Yeah.
within your capability.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. So like obviously you've worked with a lot of like agencies and stuff. Like like what do you think like when they send you a brief, like what is it that they're looking for? Are they looking for you like to come up with your own, like for instance, I remember when I was pitching for, for the Blood and Water EP last year. They just they had their own treatment.
Yes.
Send me the treatment, said
Yeah.
that this is what you want to do,
Yeah.
but we want to see your own treatment. You know what I mean?
So it's really interesting because some creatives, some agencies want you to bring your shit.
Yeah.
You know, that they're like, this is an idea, but we want your opinion. Some are very clear in what they want.
Sure.
Some agencies, and you know, for the creatives of the agencies, you can imagine like every job is different. So sometimes you'll come up with a concept and an idea that will speak to the requirements of your client, and you'll land an idea and you'll see it very clearly, and you don't really want to deviate from that, and that's what you want. Sometimes it's not so easy and it's a little bit vague, and you need help. You know, so that's why you produce, and it's a moving target. It's always different on every job, every brief that we get. It's different. Sometimes the work will have been done. The guys are very clear, and they don't want you to like mess with it, change it. It's like it's a done deal.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not so clear, and you can do it a million ways. You know, it's like if you've got a whole lot of sort of vignettes, you know,
Yeah.
commercials, like different people doing different things. You could do them a million different ways.
Yeah.
And a lot of those films, in particular, are given to directors that will bring something fresh and new and different and not been seen before.
Yeah.
And that's where, as a director, you need to step up and go, okay, cool. I'll do it like this. I'll paint it yellow instead of blue. You know, I'll do it at night instead of in the day, and I'll work with somebody who's trans instead of, you know, somebody who's male or female.
Yes,
Or, you know
yes.
what I mean? You can start to introduce narratives that they hadn't thought about, that no one's thought about, that makes the film a little bit more unique and stands out, and makes it more interesting and more diverse. And you know, there's all of those things to take into consideration.
Sure. Okay, cool. So now,
Am I answering your questions correctly?
yes,
Okay.
I mean, way more than enough.
Okay.
Trust me.
Okay.
Trust me. Even myself as a director, like I'm getting so much from you
Okay.
right now. Even myself, you know what I mean? So I can imagine people who have no idea about, you know,
Okay.
how these things go about. You know,
Yes.
there's so much that they're going to learn from this.
Okay,
You know what I mean? For some of the things that you're saying, like I do have an idea, but I just want to hear. So I want to tell people, like students, you know, people that are upcoming, people that are doing their own things.
Yes.
You know, starting up want to be like director like yourself. You know what I'm get to a point where you are. You know, I'm working with big brands, big agencies, and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So the answers are amazing. The answers are great.
Cool.
You know what I mean? So now, the pitching. The pitching phase is done. You get the job. What now? What's next? You get the job. Client calls and says, "Get that email. Okay, we like you. Want to work with you."
So
What's the next step for you as a director?
So the thing for what I do is the door is always open. You know, like a lot of the work we do is conceptual and obviously a lot of performance work. So you then get the actors in, and you need to be open to improvisation and to the fact that the actors are going to come with something. You know, and the crucial thing is making the right decision about the right actor, because if you bring the right actor onto a set, you will be able to explore range, you'll be able to explore
Yeah.
improvisation, and the script can change while you're working.
Yeah.
So it's creating an environment where everybody embraces that whatever you do, you have a goal, you have an idea, you know what you want, you've got the storyboard, you've got the timings are done, you've got an idea of what the music's going to be like, what
Yes.
the tone's going to be like, what the concept's all about. But there's always
Okay, so just for people who don't understand, the tone and the music and all of that, it all goes into a treatment, right?
Yes.
When you're pitching to the
Yeah.
to the client,
Yeah.
when you pitch the client, you put all that into the treatment.
Yes.
And then by the time the client confirms you,
Yes.
that has already been established.
So that's been established. Then you go and you scout, and you
Yeah.
find your locations, which could change the narrative.
Yeah.
You go and cast, which could change the narrative.
Yeah.
And you start storyboarding. And when you start to storyboard, you go, oh, hang on a minute, I could go there, I could do this, so that it can change.
Yeah.
And the secret is when you're doing your treatment is to always produce a treatment that everybody knows that this thing's going to develop.
Yeah.
Don't go, it's going to be like that. You know?
Yes, yes.
Make sure that there's a little organic room to move and
Yes,
improvise and
yes,
grow
yes.
and improve and always hide it or kind of like position it
Yeah,
with the intent to improve.
yes.
That's my
I hear you.
recommendation. So
Yes.
that there's space to move. You don't. The worst and the most dangerous thing you could potentially do is to sell it an idea and say it's going to go from A to Z exactly like that. And then halfway through, you realize, well, maybe E and F is not that good,
Sorry. So,
and I want to change these things,
sorry,
but now
sorry,
you can't.
sorry for cutting you. So, I mean, for those who don't know, like directors that are young and upcoming, who don't understand or know what's the treatment is, so we'll be putting like some pictures, like some roughly pictures, on the next, maybe on the next slide or something, we'll see how we do so that we can get an idea of what the treatment is, what we are talking about, or maybe you can also do your own, research on the treatment. Yeah. So
So you want me to talk about treatments?
no. I was just saying it out there.
Okay.
What for those who don't understand what the treatment is. So we'll be putting it up on the screen.
Yeah,
You know
I mean,
what is
the treatment is like sort of almost as important as the actual film because that's where
yeah
you need to see it, what you're going to produce. You need to see the film.
yeah
And you need to be clear and sure that you can do it within the time frame, and particularly for the money that you've been given for the budget.
yeah
A lot of scripts get written with no kind of correlation or connection to the budget.
yeah
So you get given the script, but there's only so much money, and it's almost
Yeah.
impossible to make. So
Exactly.
then you've got to readjust, rethink, and then sell that idea that's affordable
yeah
to the agency and to the client. That's a big thing.
Yes.
So there's a couple of things that you have to do when writing a treatment. You have to be able to sell the vision of what the film looks like. You have to be able to sell it confidently within the constraints of the budget that you've been given and within the constraints of the timeline that you've been given to produce the film.
Yeah.
So if they want it like in 2 weeks' time, but you can't cast it, like scout it and produce it in 2 weeks, don't say yes, because you're going to get yourself into serious trouble. And because once you've said yes,
yeah
the reins are in your hands.
yeah
They
exactly.
will turn around and say, "But hang on a minute, we agreed that you could do this."
Into it. Yeah.
So that is, you've got to be. It's not just about writing a treatment. You've got to think about all the logistics behind producing the film as well.
Yes,
You've got to
yes.
be cognizant of that. Don't hand that over to the producers to run for you and manage for you. As a director, be involved with the budget. Know what you can get and can afford. Don't just get involved with the budget.
You are talking
I
to
think
me.
it's healthy.
You are talking to me right now.
I think it's healthy.
It's
You got to
the
know
worst.
how much money you've got in order to make a film.
Yeah.
Because you could be painting this whole picture in your head,
Yeah.
but there's only like 10 rand. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's going to kill you, and it's going to demoralize you, and it's going to break you. And I learned that at a very early age.
Yeah.
Know what you've got to work with, and then apply that.
Trust me, I had to learn that the hard way.
Yeah.
The way I learned it
Yeah.
was the hardest way ever.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
think you've got to be cognizant of the budget.
Yeah, it
You
was
know, as
the
a
hardest
director, you've got to be responsible. You can be a creative fruitcake and just go out there and wear
Yeah.
the clothes and have a jawl, and
Yeah.
you just assume that that's all being taken. But there are going to be times, and that's going to bite you
Yes.
because there's been no communication, there's been no dialogue.
Yes.
Or suddenly you're like on this mission and you're halfway down the road and you want to do it, in a certain way, and somebody says, but we can't afford that.
Yeah.
And there's your shot that's crucial to this film that you've sold as a
Use it.
conceptual segue into another moment in the beat, of the film, and then you can't afford it.
Yeah.
You've got to be careful of that.
Yeah.
So a good producer-director relationship, critical producer-director relationship, is one that starts right from the treatment, when producers and directors talk to each other. They look at the treatment, they produce a prospective schedule, and they look at the numbers and they go, can we do this? Can we afford it? Is it a 1-day shoot? Is it a 2-day shoot? Can we shoot nights? Can we go, can we get into 16 hours days? Can we afford that? You got to talk to each other. You got to look after each other. You got to help each other. It's important that you're involved with that business side of it as well as
Sure.
the creative side of it.
Yes.
I
yes.
think just to look after yourself.
Yeah.
That's my advice.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a great advice. And then you've got everything. Now you're going, like, let's say you're shooting tomorrow, and then what's your thought process like? Like your preparation for a shoot now. You've done all the preps, pre-production.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about production. What's your, your process thought, your process thought, like when you come now? I'm shooting tomorrow. Like what comes into your mind? You've done the Ricky, you've done
So-
production, Ricky, you've done, and then now you're shooting tomorrow.
Yeah, look, the 2-3 days before a shoot are my like absolute worst times of my life. You
Yeah.
know, I get completely freaked out, and I get really hyper and very,
Yeah.
very, very touchy. You know, it's like when we get into like a big job,
Yeah,
that's where all the homework has to be signed off, done and signed off. If you haven't done your homework and you're not ready, and that's where you start to like check all the minutia of the job. Has this been done? Have I thought about this? Is this ready? Is this gonna happen? And that's a very stressful time of the job for me anyway.
Yes.
So the night before the job I rarely sleep. I kind of go to bed with my notes and I like write everything down and I make sure that everything's in place. And I've probably sent emails out at 3:00 in the morning saying, fuck, we forgot about this, you know. But yeah, it's a crucial time. Those 3 days before you shoot, it just the build up just gets insane.
yes,
And it's like, fuck, have I got this? Have I got that? Is that done? Is this fine? Is this okay?
Yes.
Will that work? Was that, should I've changed that idea? You know?
yeah,
It's dynamic. It's amazing because the life is not vanilla by any means
Exactly.
because of this. It's this incredible highs and lows. And then when you come off the shoot, you have this like post-shoot sort of like, you don't know what to do with yourself, you know? It's like you're so high. It's wild. It's amazing. You kind of go home and everybody's operating at a certain level and you're like charging through the clouds, you know?
you're still high, you're still up there.
Yeah, it's cool. It's very cool.
No, that's great. We've almost covered almost everything. You know what I mean?
Okay, cool.
That I could possibly thought of. You
Yeah.
know.
Thanks, Andile.
Now. So now, like, just the last question. You know, which is every single department important to you as director
Yeah.
to focus on?
Absolutely.
Or would you rather, or maybe, like, for instance, your DOP, Gaffer, your key grips, are those or maybe your stylist, you know?
No, everybody's important. Everybody's equally important. You know, you could have the best DP in the world,
Yeah,
but if you've got shit styling,
yeah,
it's going to look like crap. If the lighting's crap, it's going to look like crap. If the grip doesn't know what he's doing and the camera doesn't move the way it's supposed to move, it's going to look like crap.
yeah,
So I think it is about the sum of all the parts coming together, and the choice of those people is crucial. That you have the best family working on a project that
Sure.
work with you, collaborate with you, are all equally as talented, you know. Yes, of course, a DP makes an insane difference, you know, and has a massive importance to play on a job because of their eye, their aesthetic, the way they work. Some DPs are very fast and, you know, can see stuff immediately and just have it, you know. Others need a little bit more time or a little bit more, you know, they like to work with a dolly. Others can be, you know what I mean? It's like
Yes.
you've also got to make your choices regarding your crew based on the project and what you're looking for.
sure.
One of the things that I learned early was that I didn't want any of my work to look the same.
Yeah, yeah,
So I wanted every project to look different.
yeah,
So if you look at our show reel, you won't know who shot what.
exactly. Yeah,
It's all different.
that's true.
And it's like, I'm not very good at repetition. So I don't, if I've done one Coca-Cola ad, I find it very hard to go back and do another one. You know what I mean? Like, I want something different. I want something new constantly
Yeah.
to just keep it alive, keep the
Yeah,
fire
that
going, you
makes
know?
sense. That makes
And if we
sense.
do another Coca-Cola job, fuck it, we've got to do it in black and white next time. Or, you know what I mean? Like, we've got to just break it, change it, shake the fucking heart,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Sure. Last question. Before, we let you go. Just last question. There are some young and upcoming directors out there. There are those who are in school right now, studying directing. Those who just finished school now,
Yeah.
they don't know what to do. They don't know what's their next step. There are those who didn't even go to school. They just shot maybe their own indie film. They don't know what to do, and they're just starting up. What would be your advice to them? Or it's even like someone somewhere, they don't even know what to do. They want to be a director. They're very interested in this thing called a director.
Yeah.
It looks cool, but they don't know what to do. They don't
Look,
have money to go to school.
it's a brilliant
They
question.
don't know what to do.
There is a school, a mindset to follow your dream, follow your passion. And there are all these sort of like human sort of ideas and constructs about like live in the now, don't think about the future and all of
Sure.
that sort of stuff. But Andile, you and I both know that that's a lot of bullshit. Because
As you're talking, I was thinking about that right now.
because
As you-
we do need to think about how we're going to feed ourselves
exactly.
in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
You know, let's be frank. We might have a wife, we might have children. He's got to sort that shit out.
Exactly.
So if you want to just be a creative out there following your dream and your passion, that's cool.
Yeah.
But you also need to be cognizant about your life, your
Yeah.
journey, where you want to be in 10 years' time. What does 60-year-old Andile want to tell 30-year-old Andile today?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, you want to be cognizant about where you want to be one day.
Exactly.
So whatever you do today, just, I think you got to kind of think about where you want to go, where you want to be, what kind of work you want to be doing,
Sure.
who you want to be associated with. I don't know if that's answering your question. I think for me, it's just about being cognizant of
Yes.
what you want out of life
Yes.
beyond your career and how your career can facilitate that
Yes.
and help you.
Yes. So I'm just going to talk about myself. I'm just going to rephrase this. I think I spoke about this on the last episode. Like my journey was like kind of different because I studied drama. I wanted to be an actor, but then obviously I dropped out of school on my third year because
Yeah.
of financial issues. Dropped out of school, and then Sonja, the host, the producer,
Yes.
took me in,
Yeah.
on her wing, and then mentored me, and then he threw me to jail. I mean, as a PA. Then I worked with Sonja for some time, and as a PA, and then Sonja called Gary and said, "Listen, you need to join an agent, to learn more." And then
Yeah.
I went to Radical, and then that's where things started to happen for me.
Yeah.
And then from there, I met an AD called Martin Palmer, and then Martin Palmer took me under her wing. I'm sorry, under his wing. As a trainee AD, third AD, second AD on movies, and a second AD,
Yeah.
and all of that. And then from there, I started doing my own things, started like doing my DOP stuff. I was interested in that. So that's how my journey went.
Yeah, yeah.
Someone took me from the beginning. You know what I mean? So for
Yeah.
someone, like for someone else, like who is not as fortunate as I can say I was,
Yes.
meeting someone like Sonja
Yeah.
to introduce them to the industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then they want to be in the industry. They want to follow their dreams and be in the industry and start. Like what would be your your advice to them? And they want to, but they don't know who to talk to. And they've sent emails. No one is responding to them.
Whew, that's a tough question. I mean, I think you just got to keep knocking on the door. I remember when I started, I had a really old, fucked up car, and it took me 3 days to get to Joburg.
Yeah.
And I
3
spent
days?
3 days. I think it could only travel at like 40 or 50 k's an hour, but it took me 3 days to get there.
Yeah.
And I sat for 2 months in Joburg, slept on the floor in a house, and every day I would get on the phone and I would phone production companies.
Jeez. Yeah.
And I'd phone them again, and I'd phone them again. And that's how I started in the industry as a PA. And eventually I got a job as a PA for a company called Movie Makers and David Feldman Productions. And that's where I met Ian Gabriel and Cindy and Keith Rose and all those people.
Yeah.
But I started working for Ian and Cindy as a PA. But it took me 2 months every day. And I would have afternoons where I was so depressed. I'd go and walk. I lived in Hillbrow. I lived in Berea,
Really?
in Berea. And I'd walk to the park between Hillbrow and Berea.
It's great to talk about these things, especially for a director like you.
Yeah.
They know where you're coming from. They know
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to hear that.
I had absolutely no money. And there was a woman by the name of Deborah Harris who did music videos. And I got lucky. I got in with her as a PA as well, and I managed to direct, I think, 2 or 3 music videos with her through her, and that started the whole thing, you know. And
That answers the question.
I shot stills while I was there. I hustled. I did whatever I could. I did model portfolios. I worked as a PA. I did
That's
everything.
good.
Jacko Angelini, you know, I was his runner.
Yes.
Greg Gray was my AD. I was his PA for a long time.
Yes.
I really shat myself to get work, but a good 2 months of hustling.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. You cannot answer it any better than that.
Okay, cool.
You know, you cannot answer.
You got to keep knocking, man. You got to keep going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Especially,
If you want it.
especially
you know?
something coming there from someone like you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure someone else there, you know, was on the same position that I just spoke about now.
Yeah.
That would be, you know, motivated and be encouraged to hear that. You know what I mean? You keep knocking. You don't know anyone in the industry. Introduce yourself so that
Yeah.
people know you.
You've got to.
You know, so
And you got to keep banging on the doors. And
Yeah.
then what will happen is you'll find somebody that you have synergy with,
exactly,
that connects with you, sees your potential, and that will be your segue.
exactly.
You know, that'll be the door opening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kim, yeah, I mean, you've answered everything, and some of your answers were, they even made it easy for me because
good.
you were answering things that I was thinking I'm going to ask you now, and then
Okay,
you were
good.
answering on the go. You know what I mean? So thank you so much, Kim, for coming through on this episode. We truly
for
appreciate you. And you know, I was like saying this morning that, you know, at some point in this podcast, you know, when we have some people like you who have done so much for the industry, have contributed so much for the industry, you know, we have to have some sort of like a bowl of flowers, you know, when they come and then it ends and then we stay here, but we're still starting up.
No, the coffee
you know?
was perfect.
You know, so Kim, thank you so much. Man.
It's a pleasure,
Truly
man.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thank you so much for
Andile.
coming through. Thank you so
man.
much.
Yeah.
Thanks. So guys, that was it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed. That was Kim Geldenhuys, one of the directors that I respect in the industry, you know. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. Cheers.
Thanks, Andile.